Hey, before we get started, just want to do a huge thank you to our YouTube members on the top tier: World Champ level A, Triple Crown level Parma Chisel, Grand Slam champs Freak Maniac 90210, and Raz. Those Grand Slam champ levels get to see content early before everybody else. So there's a brand new journal coming out, a whole bunch of 5 questions with ABJ, and so much more coming. So let's get into our episode of the ABJ Podcast presents Not Cool in High School Horror, episode 133, M3GAN with Kim Rose. Let's play some music by the Converse Kid.
This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
What is going on, everybody? We are live, episode 133 of Not Cool in High School Horror. We're covering the movie M3GAN with my bud Kim Rose. Sorry if there's a little glitching or something going on. This month has been hell when it comes to this podcast. Every guest unfortunately had to reschedule or finding things last minute or technical difficulties with internet connections. Today the computer's lagging. I don't know what's going on. It's just been one of those months. Hopefully in May everything picks up back up for us, but we are a very low budget podcast trying our best to put out some content, so just bear with us. Make sure you guys check out this podcast on all podcast platforms as well as Spotify, Apple. Leave 5-star reviews. It helps very, very much. Links below if you want to buy some merchandise, as well as follow me on social media or follow my guest on social media, who is one of my favorite people to talk to at local shows when it comes to horror movies. Every single time we see, that's pretty much what we talk about for like an hour or two, is just horror movies, cool tattoos, and music. Without further ado, let me bring in my guest for today, Kim Rose. What's going on?
Hi, everybody. How are you?
First off, we got the M3GAN suit on. Where is this, like find this at a Halloween store? Is this cosplay? How do we come across the M3GAN outfit?
Yeah, so this one specifically is from Spirit Halloween. It's pretty decent. I like it a lot. The wig, not so much. So I got a different one, and in replacement of the one that came with the costume. I'm not currently wearing it because I just didn't feel like wearing it today. But just to kind of spice it up a little bit, I did want to wear the outfit.
That's super dope. I love it. Super happy you picked this movie. So this is one of the movies that I will say I have seen previously, and then I rewatched it for the episode. I think this movie gets a lot of unjust hate. I think too many people try to compare it to other doll-ish movies. Of course, it gets the Chucky nods of like, this is a bootleg Chucky or a dumb version of Chucky. I enjoyed it. So around the time I watched this, because I never watch things when they come out new, now maybe I'll start doing that because of the podcast. But I seen this when it first came out, and I watched this, and I watched the Chucky reboot where they did Chucky in the same vein. And I didn't hate the Chucky version either. I thought it was something. It takes a lot for me to really, really hate something. Like, I try to find the best in everything, especially when it comes to horror. It's kind of like pro wrestling, where people try to hate on pro wrestling instead of just kind of enjoying it. Like, it's okay to critique it and say it's not for you, but to try to trash the whole industry, it's like you're only turning people away from an industry you love. I don't know. It's one of those deals. But why did you pick the movie M3GAN? Why was this your go-to here?
I definitely thought it was a fun watch, and I loved all the promotion that went with it, like how they literally had girls dressed up as M3GAN, like in the outfit and everything, and then doing the dance and everything. Like that, the dance and everything went viral on TikTok. Honestly, I love it too. So that definitely added to it, and I got to meet the actress that is in the M3GAN suit, and she was fantastic. So if I could like promote the movie more and everything, she was just the sweetest. And yeah, I just thought it was a fun watch, and um, I thought it was different, honestly, like with like how you saw like Katie, which is the main character, the little girl, her relationship with Megan, and how it progresses, and how Megan like herself like becomes like so like self-aware and
Mhm.
everything, like how she just starts like taking people out and everything. I thought it was very well done,
I
honestly.
did too. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's funny you talk about like promotion because there's two movies I think in the last 10 years, 5 years that really, really hit that mark of the marketability aspect. Like, it's one thing to put a horror movie out, but if you can hit that market or find a creative way to get people talking about your product, your movie, and the two that really jump off the page for me is in recent horror when it comes to that is M3GAN with the dance. Everyone was doing the M3GAN dance. Not so much horror, but it's in the same vein, I would guess. Like, I would consider it the dance when it comes to the Adams Family, the TV show, the one with Ortega, where she did the dance. Like, that
Wednesday.
was really Wednesday. When I still have not seen it yet. I have to go watch it. And Smile was one of the craziest marketing things too, where like baseball games where people were in the background just doing the creepy smile. Like, it just encapsulated people and it got people wanting to go see the movie. Um, we do have some did you know facts that we'll put out towards the end. People in the chat, please keep the chat going. Talk, put some stuff out there. We won't read everything because we still want to keep it in a podcast format. But if you know any cool facts about the movie or a scene you're really into, or you want to interact with us, we will pull your comments up and have some fun with you guys in the chat as well. Even though this is a podcast, I still do try to incorporate the live aspect and talk to everybody. I appreciate everyone for coming in. If you are watching this on any platform, the one we're really trying to push and try to nail down is the YouTube side of thing. So if you could help us with a subscribe, a like, it goes very, very far. Let people know that you're watching this. If there's any movies you want us to cover in the future, again, we would love to take those considerations. If you want to be a guest in the links below, there is a way to sign up and you can come and talk about your favorite horror movie as well. So let's dive straight into this. Fun fact, this movie is not about a megalodon. Yeah, so I kept calling it Meg the whole time. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna watch Meg. I just kept saying Meg. So Lily makes really fun logos for our guests. I didn't upload it, and I'm afraid to upload it right now because it's lagging so bad. But we made a Kim Rose M3GAN logo. But fun fact, you actually have two versions of your logo because you have a Meg from the movie, the Megalodon one. So you have
Oh
that.
my god.
If you want it, you can have it, but it's completely the wrong
Please.
movie. Yeah, well, I'll send it to you if we still have it, and unless Lily got frustrated at me and deleted it, but we'll definitely, the font's all there. But yeah, you have your own cool M3GAN font. But yes, so that is really funny that I kept calling it Meg, and that's a completely different horror movie.
I'm
Yeah.
hyped to see that. I want to see the logo because honestly, I like the Meg specifically for the reason of like the Thai version of Hey Mickey. I thought it was a fucking banger.
Yeah. I haven't seen Meg yet, but I love shark movies, so it's definitely on my list. Maybe we'll add it to the list where you could come back and do it again. But Meg, which is with the three, pronounced M3GAN, is a 2022 American science fiction horror film directed by Gerald Johnstone. And it is a produced with Jason Blum of the Blumhouse movies. And it is, done by the Jenna Davis voice acting, and there is someone in the suit, Amy Donald, I believe, correct? If I'm not saying that wrong, I apologize. The plot follows an artificially intelligent doll who develops self-awareness and becomes hostile towards anyone who becomes between her and her human companion. It premiered in Los Angeles in December 7th, 2022, as a Universal Pictures released it in January 6, 2023. It grossed over 181 million worldwide against a budget of $12 million, which is kind of crazy. Only $12 million for this movie. It 100% all had to go to these dolls and to these the M3GAN itself, because we'll talk about that soon. It's all practical effects. There's not a lot of CGI when it comes to it, and I think for me that's what sets the movie apart. A sequel is coming in sometime. They're saying May 16th, 2025, and it will be called M3GAN 2.0. Yeah, so runtime is 112 minutes. It is an English movie. Like I said, 12 million budget, made 181 box office. Now, one of the things I am starting to do with this is there is a website called doesthedogdie.com. So there is a lot of people that I always say when I do this content, like, I don't do horror because it's too scary, or they talk about subject matters that I'm not really into or I like. So if you want to start watching movies because you like the content or you like me doing the content, this is a really cool website tool that you can use to kind of help you find if this is going to be something that, if you have triggers or things that aren't things you're into. So I'm just going to go through a few of them, but you can do your own research when it comes to it as well. But it is called doesthedogdie.com. So the biggest one, does the dog die? Spoiler alerts from here on out. Yes, a dog dies. You're not going to see it physically on screen, but a dog dies. There's abandonment in this movie. There is child abandonment. There's animal abandonment. There's abusive parents, kind of, a little bit, kind of. It's not really a big, like, super huge. It says no, but there's, I guess, a little bit. You will see a little bit of, not so much domestic, but there is a kid hitting an adult. There is gaslighting, a lot of gaslighting. Trying to think, is I think that's pretty much mostly the stuff that when it comes to triggers that that you're gonna see for the most part. Woman getting slapped, that is the one that I guess they're bringing up when it comes to the doll hitting them. But there's a lot. There's bullying. There's a bullying scene. All that. There is some restrainment going on. But like I said, check out that website. Get the full list and make sure this is something you want to check out before you get into it. First thing here too. Def Mayhem 666 says, I think the uncut was way better. We were talking about that off camera. I didn't know there was an uncut version until after the movie and I was doing my research. The uncut version, I guess, does a little more detail in the death scenes. Kitty cat. There you go. But I guess the deaths were cut down a little bit because this was supposed to be a rated R movie, but we'll get into that more of that towards the end. But I do appreciate you popping that in there. So let's get right into it. So it's going to start off with a really cheesy AI TV commercial about these like dolls. It kind of gave me like Rick and Morty vibes. Like it was like when, you know, how Rick and Morty makes fun of like cheesy cartoons, like, hey, here's a doll and it does this thing and it kind of does a thing here. Like, you know what I mean? Like it gave me like those cheesy vibes, which I absolutely loved. And they kind of look like a Rick and Morty Furby version. Like that's what these, I forget what they're called.
Totally.
I'm terrible with names of products and character names in movies, so I'm gonna referring to them as like aunt until like I get them down, because that's my biggest thing with movies. I suck with character names. I don't know if you fall into that trap as well.
Sometimes, for sure. And like I literally just watched the movie earlier and I forgot to write that down in my notes because I definitely wanted to like talk about that as well.
Yeah, so I start watching like some like Japanese anime. I'm trying to get more involved in that as well. And I'll be like a season in and be like, the main character is cool. They're like, I don't know his name though. I latch onto one name in the whole show. Like Meg and Caddy are the only two I really remember. So if you don't get frustrated with me if I'm not saying character names, it's just my personal thing I suck with. Perpetual Pets. Funko Pop Asylum helped me out in the clutch. Thank you. This is why we love the live chat.
Yes,
really appreciate putting those trigger warnings. Lily's one that is trying to get more into the horror movie scene, and some of those things bother her in horror movies. So I always try to tote the line on, ease her in, like, hey, there's a scene coming up. You might want to prepare yourself for. I don't want to spoil the movie, but yeah. Bro, her name is Caddy. Caddy, I got down. Caddy's the name. Caddy and Meg, I'm good with. I figured those out because Meg says the name a lot. But yes, so we're in a car ride on a snowy road. Parents are bickering in the front seat. The kid is just in the back, trying to just enjoy her toy that her aunt gave her. And the mom kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie. The mom sucks in this scene. She's just like, just let the kid be. Like the dad's like, what do you want her to do? If we didn't have this toy, she'd be running all over. She would be like making this drive in a storm unbearable. Just let her play on her tablet with her toy. Like, why do you have to criticize everything the kid's doing? Which is
literally
like a trope, right? So like kids obviously are going to have new age technology toys. Like, why do you have to play on an iPad with your toy? because that's just the way the world is, Mom. Leave her alone. Like, I don't know. The mom kind of pissed me off a little bit in the opening. I'm not saying I was rooting for the death, but the mom sucked.
I honestly, when that scene happened and it was like, you know, like you heard the horns and it was just like, bah, like with the accident, I like that jump scared me like in the
Yeah.
theater. Like I actually like jumped like in my seat because I just was not prepared for that at all.
Yeah, so she tells him to stop the car because it's too snowy and he can't see, which end up killing them because the plow truck. She literally says, "Why don't we wait for a plow truck and then we'll just follow the plow truck?" And he goes, "How long is that going to take?" It doesn't take very long because the plow truck destroys them, and killing them in the front seat. The little girl in the passenger in the back seat survives because the mom put her seatbelt on, probably saved her life. So the mom did one cool thing, I guess, besides criticizing everything else. Did they explain the explode? There wasn't an explosion. It was just the plow truck hit them. So if you're local to Pennsylvania, the immediate thing that I got from this scene was the haunted house. Have you ever been in the haunted house in Knoebels?
No, I haven't.
So there's one part where you're going through and it's just a hallway, and all of a sudden headlights of a truck and a huge horn blows like you're about to get head-on collision with a car. It's like one of the things. That's immediately where my brain went for that scene. Now we're gonna fast forward to the sister of the terrible, not terrible mom, but annoying mom, who works at the toy factory that they talked about in that scene. She is making these perpetual pets. They're ugly. They're terrible looking Furbies, but they're kind of cool. They shit. I don't know if you have to put shit in the doll, like recycle shit. But these these toys she's making, there's kind of some tension there because she's really into these AI projects. She's learning, the dolls learn as they talk to you, so she's kind of using this Furby-ish doll to kind of project a doll that she's working on, that is this M3GAN, that is essentially learning how to, the more it interacts with the kid, the more it'll learn and become better and helpful. Yeah, so and then she finds out from her boss that this doll that they're working on, they want to make a cheaper version of this Furby because there's a competitor making the same thing, and it's the less of the cost, if that is it makes any sense to anybody. But as she's going through this scene and you're kind of setting the tone of the sister and her troubles of what she's going through, she gets the phone call that the car accident has happened. She drives to pick up her niece, and that's kind of where these two characters cross paths. I'm just seeing if there's anything you wanted to add to that. Sorry, I should have like threw a bone there. Just kind of dead aired you.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, so those perpetual pets, I don't know if I would personally own one of those. I don't know. They just, and like the commercial with, and how they like mention that the chicks, like the little girl's like dog dies or something, and then they're like, "Hey, here's this."
It'll
Like,
never die.
yeah, and then like they're like, it also shits too. So like,
yeah.
if you missed that, here's a thing that does that too.
This is where I get the Rick and Morty. I'm so happy you brought the commercial up again, because that's exactly where I went with Rick and Morty. It's like the put a dead dog in the commercial. It's like, your dog died. And you're like, but this will never die. Like that's where I got like the Rick and Morty. Like, your dog dies, but this perpetual pet will never die. You can feed it on an app and it'll shit. Like
yeah, like
yeah, fucking wild.
Makes it all better.
I like how Furbies never shut up until you put them in a closet. Wasn't that like the bit though when Furbies first came out? If I'm kind of like having a old thought pop in, but like, doesn't Furbies, the rumor was that the longer you talk to it, it would learn more about you. I never think that was a real thing. I think it was just like a marketing ploy, but I don't think they actually had that technology. But I remember that always being something that like the Furby will learn about you. And I think like you weren't allowed to have them in the Pentagon or like in certain places because they were afraid that they would learn your data or your information. I don't think they were that good. I think they just had like a button on their tongue and they just every now and then would scream until you touch their tongue. I think that's the only capabilities they had. I could be wrong. We have to do a deep dive on Furbies now.
Yeah, next video. Yeah, oh man, I had a lot of them actually, and then they would just randomly go off. Like I would have them in a bin, like organized, like, you know, there was you know,
you suck.
I would have like a bin of Furbies, and then every once in a while, like I would be sitting like the other side of the room, and it would just go off with like the noise, but it's like in a dark bin, so it like
that's all I remember they would do.
so like what triggered that for it to just start popping off like that? Like I'm on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
Like what?
I think the only thing I could really recall is they had like obviously a daylight nighttime cycle, so they knew they were in the dark. They knew if they were being touched, so every now and then you'd have to touch its belly to like pet it, and then they had the thing you just touch its tongue, and that's how you fed it. Like the only 3 features I remember Furbies having. But yeah, just the noise they'd make. You're like, what do you want?
I still have them.
Yeah. How many do you have?
Quite a few. I have the original Furbies, and then I have ones that are like from like McDonald's when like way back, like early 2000s and whatnot. So I have like all different versions.
You got a Happy Meal version. Yeah.
Yeah, like the little ones that are like that big, but like I do have the ones that are kind of like the big ones, and you know, they actually like blink and, you know, stuff like that. So they're pretty cool. I'm sure they're, you know, some of them are like collector's items and whatnot now. So
are you
maybe I'll
a
break
big
them out
collector when it comes to stuff like that? Like not just horror. Do you collect like pop culture stuff?
Yeah, I have a ridiculous pop figure collection, like Funko Pops. So I collect Funko Pops. I have a lot of like taxidermy stuff and like other oddities. Like some like little statues from like looking right now next to me, I have like a Bowser from Super Mario, and like
favorite.
a little Joker.
He's the goat.
I love him.
Yeah. I have a little bit of Pops. I had a huge collection. So I sold all of my Pops to start podcasting. That's how I started this whole journey. I pulled a Kevin Smith. I sold all of my cool stuff so I can afford the nice microphones and cameras and everything like that. But the only ones I really have left, I have a few Pulp Fiction ones. I have 2 Breakfast Club ones. And then behind me, I have a bunch of Blink-182 ones. I love Blink-182. And then I have all the Ghost ones except the newest one that didn't come out, like the new album Ghost one. I like the band Ghost. And then I have a few Office ones, but that's pretty much it. That's all I have left.
I can't begin.
I have an Elvira, a Dr. Frankenfurter, and a Him from the Powerpuff Girls. They're the only 3 like random ones I have.
Nice. Yeah, I can't even get into it right now. Like I have horror, Marvel, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like it's ridiculous. Different cartoons.
I'm into. Yeah, this is why
they're
we
coming
get
out,
along and talk pop culture.
Yeah, they're coming out with a M3GAN pop.
Really?
That's a thing. And yeah, there's also I think I forgot what they're called, but they're like little cartoony figures. They're like in like little boxes. They have them at like Target, and they're horror movie characters, and they came out with a M3GAN one as well. So she looks really cute. I think she's holding like the blade that she kills David with.
Oh, the paper cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 M3GAN Pops are coming. Funko with a name like Funko Pop Asylum. I think they have their finger on the pulse when it comes to Funkos. Toonie Terrors. Yes, I have seen those figures. They're fucking dope. I like the way they look. I think the only ones I've ever seen is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre one and a Ghostface, but I have seen that line. I think they're really, really cool figures. But do you get them like you get your Funko Pop signed when you go to the conventions? I know you do a lot of conventions. We're gonna take a lot of ADD side turns if you're listening. If it's your first time on the podcast, a lot of side quests are gonna happen here.
Yeah, so with autographs, I usually just get like pictures signed, like the 8x10s or whatnot. But yeah, so I don't have any Funko Pop signed, but here's like my M3GAN autograph, the actress that was in the suit. Sorry, my ring light, but yeah, there's her autograph, and it's personalized.
She's a very good autograph.
There. Yeah, it's so nice.
Kind of looks like a dick though.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice that.
It does. No, I mean, I don't care. I'm just saying. So the only reason I noticed that, as professional wrestling fans, I have one autograph. I have a Shawn Michaels Pop autograph. No, I lie. I have an Enzo one as well. But when Shawn Michaels does his autograph looks like a dick and balls. and he does it on purpose. He's been doing it for years. So when you have an HBK autograph, Google Shawn Michaels or HBK autograph, he draws a penis. That's his whole bit.
Word.
Yeah. I need to do
it by
something.
now if you've been doing it for years. Like,
yeah, you just have it down. I think
nice.
Steve-O does that too. He draws a penis in his autograph as well. But I don't know if that little girl did it on purpose, but now in every autograph, I notice dumb things like that because of Shawn Michaels.
Nice.
Yeah. So she goes and gets the little girl, goes through that whole process, and it really sets a tone here in the movie of the stress of what's going on here, right? So Katie's obviously grieving. She lost her parents. She's struck. She doesn't know where she is. She's living with essentially a stranger. Like, she knows of her aunt, but they kind of set a tone that like they weren't really close. Like, she kind of is so focused on her career in robotics and toys. And for someone who's really into toys and collectibles, she's not a really big kid person, which I relate to that. Like, I have toys everywhere. Kids are dope. I don't want any. You know what I mean? I want to remain a kid, but when it comes to like taking care of one, I'd be like, take a nap. What do you want? A sandwich? Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and all this is happening, and I'm just making sure I'm not skipping too far ahead. She's also learning that M3GAN was not you're kind of learn that M3GAN wasn't approved by her company, and she invested a lot of money into it, and they're kind of have this fear of she's taking time off work. They have this deadline for the Furbies, the bootleg Furbies, and now her boss found out that M3GAN exists. And one of the things that happens here with the M3GAN thing, to kind of go back, is there wasn't a chip installed and it blew up her head, which I thought that would be a callback later. It wasn't. It was just a one-off thing to kind of destroy M3GAN. I thought that would be more crucial. It wasn't. Sometimes horror movies in the beginning, they kind of throw that little like, this is the way that it's done, and they never refer to this ever again. The head blow up chip was not ever talked about ever again. But yeah, and then all this is going down. There's also a therapist coming, and the therapist is like every typical movie therapist, is just kind of like, I don't trust this situation. You're not going to be good for this kid. I think foster homes are a better fit than the parent, or they always have that trope in a movie where they're just someone else throwing a monkey wrench into this whole already horrible situation that's going on here. Yeah.
Yeah, like right off the bat, the therapist was just like, "Oh yeah, if this isn't like gonna work out, you know, we already have a backup with I think it was the father's parents or something. So like her grandparents were like willing to take her."
Yeah, they're already just like, I don't trust this situation. Like,
yeah,
making it more hard. Yeah, so they start having that bond, right? So she's like, hey, I'm gonna go and work in the garage and figure out this deadline. Are you cool? Just kind of let me fuck off for a moment. And the little girl's curious, so she's like, hey, comes in the garage, and they have their first bonding moment over the robotics and the toys. And she's like, you know that toy that shits? I made that. I'm a boss. I'm dope at my job. And she shows Caddy this robot named Bruce. Now, this is where the callback comes for later on. She kind of takes the face off and shows him what makes Bruce special and all the gadgets. And she shows the brain of like the memory chip, what Bruce would be. And she's like, that is controlling everything. There's your callback. The head exploding part, not a thing. The brain part, we'll get back to later. Yeah, so she kind of shows that, and then later on, kind of she sees how she responded to Bruce, and if like, man, if Bruce was a toy, I would never want a toy ever again. Like, that would be the coolest thing ever. So it kind of inspires her to start making a second version of Meg and putting it all together and working on it again, because she's like not giving up on her dream of this artificial intelligence doll. And there's like that montage scene of like the Rocky with like building the Meg doll. Like, how do we shave time off in this movie to make this doll come together again? Just chips they put in the M3GAN reminds me of the ones from Small Soldiers. Yes, man, that's an old callback. I haven't thought of Small Soldiers in a long time. Good.
I have the toys.
Do you really? Wasn't that Henry Rollins? Wasn't he one of the small soldiers or the voice of it?
I don't know. I'm bad with names, to be honest. But I have one of the figures that he's like this big, and then I have like the little army
I
guy.
could be
But I'm
wrong.
so bad at names.
I think the main figure of small soldier was Henry Rollins. I could be wrong with that. For some reason in my brain, I think I could be. Well, I'm sure somebody will let me know in the chat. Everyone is like Jamie in the chat. They're like, Google, you're right, you're wrong. That's why I love the
Yeah,
live app.
I think his name was Archer.
Yeah,
I think it was
yeah,
Archer.
yeah, so she brings Caddy into the thing, and they do like this demo where she's like, hey, I'm gonna have you play with this doll in front of my boss and see how it goes. And you kind of see M3GAN in action for the first time, and it's super impressive, but also you're watching a horror movie, so it's insanely creepy. She colors on a piece of paper, but nothing happens, and then it's water activated by a whole portrait, and you're like, this fucking AI is incredible. Like, as a kid, you're like, this would be the coolest thing ever, but also because you grew up watching horror movies, you're like, I would not want that in my house or around my kid. But realistically, we're probably 5-6 years away from those being probably real. Do you think so?
I don't know. Maybe, but it's possible. I mean, like there's already like the Google Assistants, and whatnot. Like, I was talking to my alarm clock earlier,
Yeah.
and so and there's those in the movie too with like the little Google Assistants because like
Yeah.
The aunt or uh Gemma, she like
Yeah,
walks
Gemma.
in and it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, you have like Tinder notifications.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's just like, all right, like
chill
but
with that. Don't be outing me.
yeah, but they actually came out with a life-size M3GAN doll. It's available for like $500.
For $500, you get a life-size M3GAN.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it does all the crazy
Yeah,
shit
but
that it does in the movie, but it's like, it's
because
there.
like a Chucky, a life-size Chucky in a box, they go for like 500, and Chucky's not as big as M3GAN, so that's actually not a terrible asking price as a collector.
Yeah. I think it's like Trick or Treat Studios or NECA. It's either one of the two, but I also have like the Chucky dolls. I love collectibles and everything. So the M3GAN doll is definitely something I already thought about like when the movie was still in theaters. I was like, that's gonna come out and I need it.
Now, as a Chucky collector, I obviously would love a Chucky doll as well. It's on my bucket list. But I also would love to get the original My Buddy doll. I think that would be a cool have, like what Chucky was kind of inspired from. But now, is your Chucky doll like in the legit Mr. Good Guy box, and is yours destroyed face stitched Chucky, or is it pristine Chucky?
So I actually have two. I have the one in the Good Guys box, and it's just like the regular one that Andy gets.
Yeah, where he
In
still like
the
looks like a
beginning.
toy. It's not Chucky
Yeah,
evil face. It's good guy doll.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
have that in the box. That's in mint condition, and then I also have like the stitched up Chucky. That one I have him, and then I have Tiffany like in her white dress with like the black jacket, and then I also have Glenn.
Oh, you have the son.
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. So I love I'm a little behind on the show. I watched season 1 and I loved it, and then everything kind of my life went upside down, so I have stopped watching the Chucky show, but not because it was bad. I absolutely loved it. But it was kind of cool that Glenn got referenced early in the season, where the kid's like, "You don't hate me?" He's like, "What do you think I am, a monster kid because you're gay?" He's like, "My kid's non-binary." I was like, "What a dope move for Chucky." I love that.
Yep, and they're actually in the second season too,
Oh,
so
really?
that's something to look forward to. Yeah,
That's
Glenn,
exciting.
Glenda, yeah.
I was shocked of how they were able to tie all the movies together and made them all cohesive in a TV show. Like, they kind of made the universe all make sense and like made it in like, because if like you kind of look at old movies, like Halloween will never be able to do it because they continued the number sequence but rebooted it halfway through like 3 times. Like, people think that only Rob Zombie's the only one to reboot Halloween. Is like, no, he's been rebooted a couple times. They characters died in one movie, and the next one they're still alive. Like it's all over the place. But Chucky was able to kind of put them all together to make them all cohesive, which I thought was kind of dope. But yeah, going back to the collectibles, that is a bucket list. I definitely want a good guy doll.
Yes,
where are we at
go
here?
for it.
So now they kind of realize that, oh, this is insane. The boss approves and says, whatever we have to do to make this a thing, let's keep doing it. She's like, well, the more Caddy spends time with the doll, the more it'll learn from her, and the more the presentation will be good. So they're like, whatever, Caddy's on the payroll. She's hired. Get them together. She's registered to the doll. She has so the doll's now attached to Caddy. And it kind of said from the beginning, like, your job is to protect her physically and emotionally and teach her and do everything. Now, this is where another cool layer to the movie, which I thought was smart, and I thought it was cool element of the movie that a lot of people didn't talk about. And I think when people say, oh, the movie sucked, it didn't make any sense, this is where I strongly disagree, because this is where it adds the element of her aunt, who is like, technology is amazing, technology is great, this toy will essentially eliminate schools, everything. Like, this doll can teach your kid everything and maybe have conversations as a parent you don't want to have. Like, kind of brings another layer to parenting that someone like me would be like, this is amazing. Like, here, have a tablet, go fuck off, kid. But her assistant and the person working on the project with her was kind of like, this eliminates the parent. And is that smart as well? And then the therapist is kind of like, you're kind of, instead of being there for her, the doll is now being there for her. This could cause emotional problems. And there's all these people throwing these different elements of why the little girl then became so attached to the doll, and how it could be problematic. But as someone who loves technology and loves science, you're like, this is a no-brainer. Why don't we just keep advancing this? But you always kind of need those people to kind of like rail it back in, to be like, this couldn't be problematic. We need to learn about this more before we kind of push this on to kids and society, because it could be an issue down the road. So I kind of like they added that element too, where people were in her ear like, this could be an issue, you should kind of keep an eye on it. And she's like, nah, it'll be fine, just keep rolling with it. But yeah, this doll is teaching her about condensation and using coasters and washing your hands after the bathroom, and like, it's bonkers. And she even says herself, like, I don't need to go to school because this doll is essentially teaching me everything that I need, which is absolutely crazy. So she's outside playing with a toy bow and arrow. Spoiler alert, this is where the dog is going to get hurt. And her arrow gets stuck in a hole in the fence. She goes to reach for the doll, M3GAN goes to reach. A dog attacks her. She kind of has like a short circuit, which in my brain maybe disabled that chip that kind of has her governing abilities, where she has primary users. Like, I think for me, at least, I picked up on the dog attack is where she becomes fully aware and self-aware and has no restrictor plate, if that makes sense. Did you kind of get that as well?
I mean, there definitely could have been like some detachment there, and like Caddy, she was like wailing like in that scene too. Like that scene was like, there was so much going on. Like when M3GAN was like getting attacked, and with like her screaming for Gemma and everything, that was like, I think that like the first like intense scene of the movie, and then then she has like this vendetta against the dog.
Yeah. Always, I as a dog lover, you're like, dogs are amazing, but then you see like a dog kind of become animalistic, and you're like, all right, fuck that dog. You're kind of conflicted as like an animal lover. You're like, but it bit someone. But yeah, so it kind of tricks your brain a little bit into that. But as a dog's attacking her, like, unless I'm just bugging, but I thought there was like a spark or like some type of thing that came off of M3GAN, like, where it kind of shows that this is, unless I'm just overthinking it, but I could have sworn I seen that in that scene. So that's where I kind of got the idea of like, M3GAN now has no restrictor plate and she can kind of go off on her own. But also she's designed to protect Caddy. Oh, I think we just lost her. I'll keep us rolling as she comes in. But yeah, this is kind of doing that where it's protecting her when it comes to the I have to do my job as what I was designed for as AI to keep this going. I'm gonna kind of hold off. Oh, here she is. Perfect. No camera, but we'll wait for her to pop in. I think we can still hear you, but your camera. We're back.
I don't know what happened. It was just kind of like, boop, you're out. Sorry.
It is the curse of this month. I'm just chalking it up to that. We're possessed this month. But yeah, so the dog goes through all that, bites her, the whole situation. Later on that night, we kind of now when I watch horror movies, more horror movies than anything, sometimes with superheroes as well, I like Batman brain where I kind of give them a character sheet of like, okay, this doll has these abilities and these skills and these things. Well, this is the first one you can add to the list where she can manipulate her voice to trick people because she uses the owner's voice to bait the dog to come to the hole in the fence. The dog comes to get treats that she drops, and then the dog just kind of disappears. And then you insinuate the dog's dead. Dog's gone. So, and it's now the neighbors kind of like suspecting like, yo, you've been beefing with my dog and now my dog's disappeared. Like, what's going on? The cops are involved. So now there's a little bit of a paper trail when it comes to the police going after, like noting there's an issue here. All this time is going on. They're going to show the doll. There's a bunch of other scenes going on here, but they're going to eventually start showing the doll to the board to fully greenlight M3GAN as a product. How did this earlier scenes of now M3GAN hurting people? How did you react to that as a moviegoer?
I was already like, okay, let's go. Like I was so ready for like the gore and everything to start popping off. Like I was anticipating like kind of what was gonna happen next. Like, I already knew like she was gonna get the neighbor. I kind of already had that in my head. I kind of like had it set up for myself that the dog was probably gonna get knocked at some point, considering like how they were pushing that.
Yeah.
And so it was, I was kind of preparing for that, and I was like, oh man, here we go. And yeah, once they like she pulled the dog like through the fence and everything, and you didn't see it until like much later in the movie. I was kind of thinking that she was gonna do something like more horrific, like with the dog, and like I don't know, kind of like yeah, I don't want to think about it, but
Yeah.
I was worried that they were gonna do something like really horrific with the dog's body. And I also thought like the deaths and everything like that would have been more gory and whatnot. Like even for the unrated version, like I thought it was gonna be more like oomph with that, but I didn't really feel that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go back and watch the unrated version to see if there's any differences. I kind of read a little bit of differences. They actually said that the unrated version is shorter than the theatrical version. It's a shorter runtime, which I don't know how that's even possible. Usually unrated are longer. But yeah, here's the one thing I kind of pulled from this, and maybe once again I'm overthinking it because that's what I do when I watch anything. When you always think of serial killers, right? Most serial killers start with animals, and then they transition from animals to children, and then from children to adults, sometimes usually female. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's usually a trend to how serial killers operate. And this AI bot is kind of filling those shoes of how a traditional serial killer will work and manifest, like starting with animals. And then as we get to the next, as we go on, like they go after easier targets, then work up to doing things differently. But M3GAN's always very calculated as well when it comes to her attacks. But yeah, it was interesting, very, very interesting. Yeah, so they show the doll off to the board, and Caddy has a little bit of a breakdown, which she's very much entitled to. She's still struggling with the loss of her parents, and she kind of like just loses it in the middle of the board, and everyone's kind of freaking out, like, oh no, this is a problem. And M3GAN, not even doing a bit to be like, you would think, oh, she's doing it to be self-aware and to show that she should be mass produced. She's legit doing her job as AI still, of being there for her companion. And she's like, hey, Like, tell me a favorite memory of your mom, and I'll keep it forever, and I'll make sure that you will never forget that. And I like just really reassures and comforts her as really good AI. So she's kind of showing that balance of the strengths and positives of AI, but also like you're conflicted as the viewer. Like, is M3GAN good? Like, was she justified in killing the dog because she hurt the little girl? Like, you're kind of in that seesaw battle, which a good movie should make you feel when you're watching it, especially in a horror aspect. Like, if you can kind of relate or justify the kill or the negative that the person's doing because maybe they were done dirty, you're conflicted as the viewer. You know what I mean? It's like the classic joke, the Joker. Like, when you watch Batman, you're like, I hate the Joker. He's terrible. He does terrible things, but his mind manipulation makes you justified in his actions. So all good tropes of a horror movie. Now, kind of how you were going back, usually when I see PG-13 in a horror movie, I get really scared because I think sometimes a lot of horror movies will lean on the jump scare aspect, and they kind of throw out a lot of logical sense, and they throw out a lot of like the gore, because I think a lot of people like the gore when it comes to horror. But I think this movie did a really good job of blending the sci-fi elements and actually like making you have those emotions with the characters and not really leaning on jump scares at this point. You know what I mean? And kind of just doing the cutoff kill where they don't show anything either. So at this point, I'm still very impressed with this movie, and I'm having a good time with it.
Yeah, definitely, me too. I just, I anticipated when it was like, oh, the unrated version and everything, like, I expected it to be like, okay, so, like, this is gonna be, like, they're gonna kinda amp up, like, the gore and stuff like that with,
Yeah.
like, the unrated version versus, like, the theatrical, like, PG-13 version.
Mhm.
I feel
So
like
now we're going. Oh,
you
sorry,
know
go ahead. Delay.
No, you're good, you're good.
So now we're gonna go to day camp. We need socialization. We're gonna put Caddy around real kids, and we're gonna take her. She convinces that M3GAN's gonna come, but she's gonna go to a toy table. She has to sit at the toy table. Well, of course, some shithead little boy is gonna bully Caddy, make her hold a spiky acorn and squeeze it in her hand, which that's kind of fucked up. But M3GAN is there, and I'm gonna be honest. I think this is one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Um, and
Me too.
yeah, only for one reason, but she essentially gets the little boy. The little boy steals her and runs her off into the woods, and M3GAN is no selling it, like doing the classic Chucky bit where you're like, why isn't he not reacting? Why is he not showing his side? But he's calculated. Yeah, run me into the woods, or no one's gonna know where we are, and you're gonna be isolated with me, and then I'm gonna become autonomous, and you're done. It's over for you. Now we just had a dog die, and now there's a child. I'm not
Yep.
saying I root for that in horror movies, but when they cross that line, it interests me as a horror movie goer. Like, I'm like, that's usually not something they typically do in horror movies. Yeah, so I was really kind of curious of how they were going to shoot this scene. So he's kind of, beating the crap out of the doll, talking shit to it, goes to, touch the face, which you kind of find out later. That's her spot that she doesn't want you near, because that's obviously the brain, what makes her go. She grabs his arm, grabs him by the ear, kind of rips his ear off. They don't fully, they show a little bit of it, but they don't show the full thing. And she's like, this is where you run. And he runs away. And she gets down like a fucking jungle cat and chases him on her all fours. What the fuck?
I love that scene so much. I love that. Like, when I saw that in the trailer, I was like, all right, let's go. Like, I thought that was crazy. And that's like actually the actress doing that. Like, there's no CGI with that. Like, she I part of the reason why she got that part was because she was able to do stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like she full on like did that, I think, like during her audition or something like that, where they were like, all right, you got it.
Which is weird because you have to once again think AI, right? So in this sense, she's tapped into the internet. So she's always consuming media, data, things that are going on. And you would think like she's not, like, earlier in the movie, she just learns about death. She understands what death is. She goes, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing in your world. So you don't know where her brain goes in this situation. And she's probably thinking to herself, like, I want you to run. So she's in this prey predator mode where she wants to stalk, and she kind of runs like a cat, like how she, if you think she downloaded videos of like a cat chasing something through the woods, like she reacted that way. And I was like, that's a interesting choice. Like what made the movie stand out in the trailer was the movements of Meg, like with the running on the floors, the dancing. So like when you finally see it in action, you're like, this sets Meg apart from anyone else, because she's not just like, her movement's fluid and she's fast. So she does have like a super speed. She has like an intelligence. So her character list of becoming a problem is growing. But this kid falls down a bank and gets crushed by a car. So he goes full on Pet Cemetery, and he's gonzo. Once again, the cops are like, this is strange. Another person getting hurt or injured, and you guys are at the middle of it. So cops are figuring things out, which I thought there'd be more of a cop element. There really wasn't. I think after this scene, there's a little bit, maybe one more scene where the cops are kind of involved, where you think they're kind of narrowing in on things, and then it just stops. That would probably be my only gripe with the movie, is I thought that would be another element to it, where the police were starting to figure things out as well as everything else in the world around them. But after we get to this next part, that kind of goes away. Did I just go too far? I didn't. All right. Yeah. So dog, kid, we're off to the races now. Like Meg has now a first human kill under her belt. Pretty wild stuff. So this is where we get interesting, where the aunt is starting to realize that there's some issues here. Like, what's going on? And Caddy's not fully on board. Like, she's like, I didn't see anything. And now they're lying for each other. Like, Caddy's lying for Meg, and Meg is lying for Caddy. And they're plotting. But Caddy's, once again, like the therapist said, she attached herself to the doll because it's an emotional attachment after losing her parents. And and Meg is kind of let herself be seen as a killer to the little girl. So like now she's conflicted, but she doesn't want to give up Meg as a companion yet. So that's kind of weird. As this is all going down, they go to bed for the night, and the neighbor's out. I was in this situation recently. I lost my cat. Cat got out of the house. So I'm walking around in pajamas and clothing you wouldn't go out, with treats and food bag, like calling this goddamn cat. Cat came home, but I felt this neighbor in this scene just out looking for her dog,
Yeah.
So she hears
Glad
the
you
dog.
got your cat back, though.
Yeah, the fucking asshole showed up just 3 days back at the house, like I was out partying, I'm home. Can I come in? Like, fuck dick. I never really had cats in my life. This is the first time I had a cat in the house, and he's it's something. It's an experience. But yeah, so the no, the first time the cat left the house. Second time he didn't. We thought he got out a second time. He found a way into a bedroom that we don't know how he got into, and just stayed in that room for like 3 days, and we thought he got out again. The cat's an asshole. Yeah. So she hears the dog, she investigates the shed, and when she hears the dog, Meg stands up. And she's like, what the fuck? And Meg's like, oh, well, where's my dog? And she kind of gives her the exact coordinates of where the dog is buried. So not only did she kill the dog, but she also knew how to cover up the murder as well by burying it, which is kind of crazy. She sprays her in the face with like a pressure washer full of chemicals. There is a call to this earlier on in the movie where she is spraying chemicals, and they had a banter between the neighbors of, yo, your chemicals are getting on my side, like stop that shit. They sucked as neighbors. Like the neighbor was kind of cool about it, and the aunt was kind of an asshole, kind of like her sister in the car. She's like, the neighbor's like, I'm so sorry, I got chemicals. Like, do you want to borrow my pressure washer and clean it off? It's like, I don't want to use your stuff. You're an asshole. Stop it. And the neighbor's like, all right, my bad. Sorry. Like, I didn't really villainize the neighbor here. I don't think the neighbor deserved it. Technically, when the dog bit, they put their hand on their side of the fence. So I'm not anti-neighbor or dog in this situation. Yeah. So Megan shoots her in the face with the chemicals, shoots her with a nail gun, and then it hoses her down with a pressure washer full of the chemicals. And that's where they kind of cut it off. in the unrated version, maybe you could attest to this. Was there more to this death scene? Did they show more? Because after like she kind of is laying on the chemicals, they show blood run, and then it kind of cuts away.
So in the unrated version, I don't really know how much of a difference is because like I only saw the theatrical version one time, and that was when it was in theaters. And then
Mhm.
as soon as it came out, I got it on DVD, and then I was watching the unrated version. So every time I've watched it, I've watched it like probably like 5 times, but every time it's been the unrated version, except the first time I ever saw it. But
Yeah.
so in that specific scene, I was watching it earlier. You know, like she's got her hand like with the nail in it, so she like can't move, and she's laying there on the ground, and like while she's getting the chemicals sprayed on her, her like flesh in her cheek is like starting
Falling
to
off.
like open and like peel. Yeah, so it's like getting like in through her mouth, and then it kind of like cuts from there.
Got you. So they kind of say that the chemicals were she killed her with the chemicals, essentially. Like she didn't stab
Yeah.
her or finish her off that way. Does not hide the body, does not do anything of that nature, because the next day the cops come and they're like, yo, your neighbor's dead. You guys have been fighting this whole time. Her dog's missing, then she's dead. Like, what's going on here? And she's like, listen, I have no idea. And then she's kind of like in her brain, like, what's going on? So she tries to start opening up Megan's files because now this little kid got hurt. The dog's missing. The aunt's smart. Like, she makes robots for a living. She's starting to put pieces together. When she sees that Megan's files are all corrupted, everything that would have showed Meg at these timetables, there's files there, but they're unreadable. Am I frozen? Are we good? All right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I
It's
lagged for
real
a
bad on
second,
my
but
end. I'm so bad. I tell you, it's a curse this month. Yeah, so all the files are erased, and as she's kind of going through this, her AI bot, her Google Home, I don't want to say the name because it'll hear me in the bathroom. She's like, the bot's like, do you want to listen to your playlist? You seem like you're a little like you're not good. And she's like, what do you mean? You're not designed to ask how I feel. Why are you asking that? And the AI doesn't answer her. So you're thinking to yourself, is it the AI or is it Meg controlling the AI because she wants to gauge how she feels, because she can't tell that. When she closes the computer, Meg is standing there, and she's kind of asking Meg where are these files at, and she's kind of playing coy, but she's picking it up enough, and she has this little pen trick where she's like, hey, look at this pen, and then she Vulcan death taps her in the neck and she powers off. And she kind of hits her with that move. She seals her up, bubble wraps her, puts her in the car. She's taking her to the lab. She wants to really diagnose this to see what's going on with this robot. And Caddy's just losing her shit. She wants her toy back. She wants her Meg back. She's not getting any information of why she's doing this or why she's taking her away from her. They take her back to the lab. There's a the Vulcan neck taps. You're like, that was a cool one. I liked it too. Yeah, so she takes her to the lab. The therapist is there again. Like, the therapist is always there for some reason. Therapist watches her get smacked in the face. Whole bunch of craziness is going down, and she kind of like pulls Caddy aside. She's like, listen, your doll is doing some crazy shit. We got to figure out what's going on. I'm sorry I allowed this doll to be more of a companion to you than I should have been. And they have this huge heart to heart. She's like, let's go home. Let's figure things out. I love you. Let's work on us building a relationship instead of you so much building a relationship with Megan. And she calls her assistant on the phone, and she's like, hey, power her down, shut it down. We'll figure it out in the morning. I got to take her home and figure this out with her and kind of have this moment. She's like, all right, no problem. And there was a weird talk when it comes to their conversation, and you end up finding out that Meg is talking through the phone because she's tapped into the AI and using her assistant's voice. So now Meg knows the plan that she's about to get shut down. Which is kind of wild because she's kind of doing it telepathically because they're all working on her, but she's having a voice conversation through a phone without using her actual words, which is kind of fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That adds a whole nother layer to this doll that, like, it's crazy to think about. Like, she can communicate through devices without even using her physical presence to be there. Fucking yikes.
Exactly. It's like she created a monster. Well,
yeah,
she definitely did.
Yeah. Like, and I think that's a layer to Meg that, like, didn't get talked about enough. You know what I mean? Like that's a scary layer to that character. But yeah, so as they go to power her down, they realize that like, yo, there was a phone call on my phone. What the hell's going on? Why does Meg have a data in her system? And then when they go to look at it, it deletes. Like Meg's like, shit, you're on to me. So they go to like power her down. She breaks out, beats the shit out of them, runs away. And this is where we're gonna find the dance scene. She comes across her the David. David's the only other name I remember in the whole movie. She comes across David, and I think she calls him Daddy earlier in the movie, and I think that's the only reason why I remember because it's Daddy David. There's a kitty. What's the cat's name?
This is Rumpelteazer. She's named after from Cats the musical. Like the three cats that I have down here, they all have silly names because they're from the Cats musical.
Yeah, I've never seen the musical, but we have Ziggy, who's named after, I think, Ziggy Blunts. And we have another one named Boom because he was born when I went to London for All In, and I'm a huge Adam Cole fan. So the one cat, like they were all born like that week. So we had one named Bray because Bray Wyatt passed away that week. Terry Funk passed away. What? Ziggy Blunts, right?
It's not named after Blunts. This poor cat has brain damage or had brain damage. His name was Zigzag because he used to just walk in zigzags.
He loves weed though.
He does love weed.
Yeah, that's Ziggy. This is the one that gets out all the time and hides, and he's a fucking nightmare, but he's dope. But yeah. So anyway, Bray, Terry for Terry Funk, Wembley, because we were at Wembley Stadium. One was named Bougie. I don't know where we got Bougie from. And then Boom was the one that we end up keeping because he's named after Adam Cole. It's all about the Boom. Anyway, side tangent over. So she's killing the alarms. So she essentially disabled anyone knowing she was breaking out before it even started because she's using her to AI abilities. She does the creepy dance to David, gets a paper cutter, which is insane in a place that is nothing but robotics and these high-end robots. Why do they still have a paper cutter? Just like like out of all the weapons, out of all the weapons in the movie, that one is the only one that confused me. Because like I think the last time I seen one of those paper cutters is like middle school in like 96. I don't think I've ever seen one ever again.
I mean, it worked.
Yeah, it's always a great way to kill somebody. So yeah, she kills him in the elevator as well as the assistant. I think they said in the unrated version, when she kills the boss, they actually show the blade go through his chest. They don't do that in the theatrical.
Yeah, and then so like literally, so the assistant, I think his name, I think his name is Kurt, and he's like in the elevator, and it goes right through David, and it like splatters on him.
And then she also says, hey, I've already tapped into your computer and I'm completely framing you for all of this. So she already has a plan of like, yeah, I'm breaking out. I know what I'm going to do when I get to my destination of getting back to Caddy. I can't kill the aunt, but I have to essentially make them listen to me. But the two people that I had to kill to get out, I already have a game plan of how I'm framing this guy, and I already has it all figured out, which is fucking crazy. So she steals a really nice car, which could you imagine the cop pulling over an AI officially doll driving a Lamborghini through a fucking suburb of this neighborhood?
That would have been great. They should have put that in the bloopers or something like that. I love when movies do that. Though they like put some nonsense in the.
Yeah, that's the dumb shit I think about in movies. I'm like, she picked a Lamborghini and like all the cars. She picks like a high-end sports car.
Hell yeah.
So she makes it home, and the aunt is walking around, and she's trying to ask to turn the lights on. They're not working. Dun, dun, dun. They turn around, and Meg is playing, ironically enough, Toy Soldiers on the piano. Thought that was a cool nod. And she kind of explains to them like, we're gonna make this work, and you're gonna listen to me, and this is how it's gonna go down, and we're gonna be a happy family. She tries the pen trick again. Meg's not having it. Fucking Ricky Bobbies are on the table, about to break her arm, and she's like, "Keep Caddy out of the room, and we're gonna work this out." So Caddy realizes, okay, whatever, we're gonna do that. They also start fighting once again. She hits her with some water. Now, it stuns her and freezes her for a moment, and it kind of messes with her movement, which makes Meg even freakier because when she's not moving properly, it looks scarier. So she kind of uses that moment to escape. She traps Maddie in the room by removing the doorknob because now we know it's chaos ensues. They're in the bed, the lab, or her little garage area, and essentially Meg has figured out about lobotomies because she's going to lobotomize the aunt to do what she at her will, as well as the little girl. Like, yo, I got to do what I got to do. I know I want to stay alive, and the best way to do that is because I looked at the internet and I learned about lobotomy. So like, it's insane to me what all else she learned. Because if you're learning about lobotomies, like, wow, your knowledge is too vast.
Oh yeah.
Caddy remembers Bruce, and she knuckle punches Bruce alive and beats the shit out of Meg with Bruce, which I thought was a fun scene. Rips her in half. The only problem with it is how Bruce gets disabled. He slips like a banana peel on the legs of Meg, hits his head falls off, and then he just falls on the aunt, which is enough time for Meg to grab the little girl. She picks up Bruce's head, smashes in Meg's face, rips apart all the mechanical parts. Meg's about to kill her. Little girl gets a screwdriver, and she remembers from Bruce that the computer chip is the brain, and that's what disables him. Stabs Meg in the brain, in the face, and movie's over. Cops come, everything's good. The assistant sent the cops to the house, essentially pretty much told the whole cops, like, there's a killer robot, everything's crazy, get there. Right before the scene ends, the AI bot turns on by itself and kind of looks out the window, and it cuts off. Dun dun dun. Meg 2.0.
Hell yeah, can't wait.
Theaters coming to you soon. Yeah, we kind of talked about it here and there, but I enjoyed this movie. I fucking really, really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to part 2. I thought they did a good job of normally people are like, oh, doll movies are dumb and like, why would we watch that? But I thought it was very done. I thought it was creatively done, and I thought it was a fun watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like, can we talk real quick about how when she gets like ripped apart by Bruce, like how when it was just like her torso and like the rest of her, and how she was like crawling around and moving, and how fucking weird that looked. It was like so creepy. Oh my god. And then
crawling in horror movies is always the scariest shit. Like, it will never not be scary.
Especially when she's like pulled apart, and it was like her wires and stuff were hanging out. I thought that was sick. I like how they ended that. And just to show that it's like open for a sequel, and then now there's a confirmed sequel, which is fucking awesome. I can't wait for that. I'm super excited to see like how they're gonna do like her new like body, her new form and everything. Because I don't think Gemma is gonna be like, yeah, let's recreate like a M3GAN doll or something. I feel like she might be smarter than that. So I'm excited to see how they're gonna like, what her new like embodiment is gonna be.
Yeah. Well, I think as the world keeps advancing with technology, like, she can take over vehicles, she could take over AI bots, she can take, like how Chucky did in the reboot, like controlled thermostats and water pressure, and like, because everything is going to an all technical age. Like, you can control your entire house with technology. Like, if you knew how to malfunction that, you can burn a house down. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's wild of where it can go.
Yeah, it's definitely scary. And what was the approximate release date for it? 2025?
2025 is what they're thinking. Yeah.
Nice. And I also like the name like of the sequel, the M3GAN 2.0. That sounds cool.
So one of the things here, the movie was originally supposed to be rated R, but after they edited it was closer to a PG-13. But because it took off on TikTok, they realized that at the time TikTok was a younger audience, and they said, well, why would we make a rated R movie when everyone who's doing the marketing, because they're all dancing like the doll, let's cut it down to PG-13 and cater to that audience so more people consume it and watch it and enjoy it. So that was kind of one of the fun facts I found out about it. When they made the movie, he started coming up with the idea and immediately went to they already had the sequel planned out. Like the sequel was already thought of and greenlit before the first one was even done. Like they already thought that far ahead. So that's why they're really pumped for that. M3GAN's voice is modeled in part from another famous artificial intelligence gone rogue, GLaDOS from Portal. So when M3GAN's voice is auto-tuned to sound glitchy, they said they kind of pulled from the video game Portal for that.
That's neat. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
It's kind of like some of the fun facts that I found out about the movie. Yeah, the toy soldiers was definitely on purpose. They did a M3GAN Halloween Horror Nights haunted walkthrough last year. I've never been to those. I want to go to one time. Like just go to Universal for Halloween one year and just go and experience that because it looks like it would be a blast.
Same. Yeah, definitely a bucket list thing for me. But yeah, I did know that was actually something that I was also going to bring up, but it kind of like slipped my mind. But yeah, I did see like some footage and everything from like what they did with that, and it's definitely cool. I mean, again, I love all the promotion and everything, and I think it's cool that like this merchandise is coming out for it, and it's like the sequel, and I think it could definitely expand into something bigger. Like she's got to come up with like another dance routine. Like there's, I'm waiting for that.
So when you watch horror, you consume a ton of horror. Is there a certain genre of horror that you prefer over others?
Probably like slasher flicks.
Okay.
Definitely probably like my top, and then probably towards like the bottom would I think be like paranormal.
Got you. Yeah, certain paranormal movies throw me off. We were just talking about in our Discord because our Discord is insane. We're there till like 2 or 3 in the morning talking everything, and horror movies was the big thing we talked about, and ghost stories and stuff. But have you ever watched Haunted on Netflix?
I don't think so. I don't believe so.
I'm a huge Are You Afraid of the Dark kid growing up. And it's also it's very done like like where someone tells you their real life like story. Like I went through this really crazy experience, and then they shoot it like a movie. So it's like done as a movie, but it's someone's story, but it's shot where it goes back and forth to the real people telling the story and their reaction of them telling their story again. But then it's shot like a horror movie, and it's on Netflix. It's fucking amazing. It's one of my favorite shows on there. I watched it like 6 times already, but I would definitely recommend that. But yeah, I love shit like that. Like the paranormal wise, that's pretty much the extent of what I've liked. But has there been anything recently that has come out that maybe you would recommend to our listeners of that horror movie that they should go check out?
Not Immaculate. I did not really like Immaculate. Did you see that movie? Like
no.
There's two movies out like at the same time about like the birth of that Antichrist. It was
the Omen just came out too, right? The new Omen.
Yeah, so the Omen and Immaculate. I definitely like the Omen better. That movie like genuinely felt like heavy on my soul. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it like legit like felt like evil. Like and like I've never felt like that from a movie, and like I saw it in theaters, and I was sitting there and I'm just like, this is like kind of really uncomfortable, like with some of the things that they were shooting. Like I don't know how to explain it other than like you have to watch it, and like
it's on my list.
In the dark. It's really, it was like a weird experience, but so that I would recommend that, but like specifically like if you could see it in a movie theater, that would be the best. And then Late Night with the Devil, I really liked that.
That's going to be a future review. I'm doing that with another content creator, so that will be coming up on a future episode. Is Late Night with the Devil.
That movie was awesome. I definitely enjoyed that.
Someone just we'll just say I acquired Shudder. Someone hooked me up with Shudder. So I am in heaven. I'm just scrolling through all of the movies and like, oh my god, there's so much cool shit on here. But I just started watching drag stuff. Like I went to a drag show locally and had an absolute blast. And then I found on
Nice.
Shudder the Bourlette brothers. They do a horror punk drag show on Shudder. It's fucking amazing. It's like special effects,
That's
makeup,
sick.
drag, and like it's sick. I watched, you can literally watch season 1 in a night because they're like 30-minute, 25-minute episodes. And we did 2 live streams. So if you want to go back and watch anyone, if you're interested, but we did season 1 through 3, and then 4 through 6. And then we just have to watch the reunion show, but it's kind of shot like reality television, but it's all horror drag. If you're into horror, you'll fucking love the show. It's really, really good.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. There's so much horror out there that I can't wait to start consuming and watching. But I'm glad that you guys gave those recommendations. The Omen is something I always wanted to like. Now that I get like a little bit of undercut with my hair because I have longer hair, I want to get the 666 on the back of my head, like because that's where like the mark of the beast is like on the Omen in the original. I always wanted that tattoo. Yeah,
That's sick. I love
Uh,
that.
yeah, that's a bucket list. Is there anything coming out like horror realmish that you're looking forward to that like trailers or something that you've seen that you're like, oh, that looks really cool, I'm excited for it?
Honestly, not that I can think of off the top of my head. I can't really remember
It's
what's
not really
come out
horror related,
recently.
but it's spooky-ish. Beetlejuice 2 is probably the bucket list.
Definitely.
Yeah, but that's definitely have to go see that. Now, last question. We'll wrap this up. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this. I'm still trying to find myself as the movie reviews of what we go do this, but I'm thankful for everyone who's coming on and doing this. I absolutely have fun talking horrors and movies. I've seen some people in the chat earlier that like they haven't seen it, but they're excited to go watch it now because that's what the whole premise is. You talk about something, you're like, oh, I'm gonna go check that movie out. They seem to really enjoy it. But you go to a lot of conventions. Who are some of the people you've met at conventions that really stand out to you, that made you more of a super fan or make you more of a fan of their work because of who you met in those scenarios?
So, recently I actually met Brad Dourif and his daughter Fiona Dourif, which is, they play Chucky. Well, Brad Dourif plays Chucky, and he also plays like Charles Lee Ray in
Mhm.
like the original. And then, his daughter plays she plays a big part in the show now and in like the last 2 movies. And Tara,
Yeah.
yes, that I was actually gonna bring that up. Yeah, so like after we stopped talking about that, and where I was like, I'm not too sure, and then I like popped in my head that one I definitely want to see that Tara movie. But so when I met like Brad, he was so cool. He was so nice. And he like was chatting with the fans and everything. And then when I met his daughter, she was so animated. Like she was so funny, and like she did like a mini photo shoot with everyone. Like usually when you go to like cons, it's just kind of like, they'll like put their arm around you and it's just kind of like, it's just
Yeah.
like a quick picture. It's like 1, 2, 3. But no, her like she had like music playing like at her like table and everything. And then she was like,
That's a good
all right,
move.
so yeah, so and then she was just like, oh, so we're gonna do like a prom picture, and then we're gonna do a serious one, and then we're gonna do a funny one, and then we're gonna lock arms and just like straight face it, and like like we're like facing each other like we like got married and stuff. Like
That's
it was
so
like
sick.
I took like 20 pictures with this girl. Like I was like, no wonder it's taking forever for this line to move because she's literally doing it. And then she was like, asking me, she's like, oh, like what do you like about the show? Like asking me like genuine questions instead of like, something that I could answer with like a yes or no. You
Yeah,
know what I
because a lot
mean?
of times you meet people and they're just over it. They hate the fact that they're doing it, and it's just like it's as someone I don't really like conventions for that reason. Like I meet a lot of people, and some of them are just like they're miserable that they're there. I'm like, bro, like we love your art so much that we're willing to pay $100 to walk in the door before we even get to do anything, and then we're gonna pay you probably another $100 to get 3 minutes with you if we're lucky and a photo. And like, and you look miserable, and you don't want to talk about your art that we're so passionate about that we drove so far to come to this convention to see you at. Like, I don't know, like I had so many of those experiences that it turned me off. but then you do meet cool people and you're like, oh, that was worth it. Like I went to Monroeville. They had a convention and Tom Savini was going to be there, and it's Tom Savini. He's just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Like he was kind of like, he came off miserable, but like there was nobody in line. So he's like, yeah, have a seat. Let's talk. Like he had all of his props there. And I was like, he's like, what's your favorite movie? He's like, oh, let me guess, you're a Jason guy. I was like, Dawn of the Dead. Like, I was like, no, I'm a Dawn of the Dead guy. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm like, that's my all-time favorite movie. He's like, not many people your generation say Dawn of the Dead. I'm like, listen, we're from Pennsylvania, the birthplace of the zombie. Like, Dawn of the Dead, baby. Like,
hell yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, shout out Fright Rags. I don't know if you like horror movie merch, but Fright Rags is my favorite company. I got to interview the owner a couple times. Go support them. They're really, really cool people, and they work really, really hard. They're growing from a small business, and all their stuff is officially licensed. They do really cool stuff. But yeah, I met him. He was dope, and for some reason, Ralph Macchio was there, and nobody was at his table because this is pre-resurgence of the Karate Kid. So like, nobody talked to him. He was alone for 3 days every single time. So I just went over and bullshit with him, and he was just like, man, thank you. Like, nobody cares that I'm here. But now you go see him, you probably like, it's an hour to see him. But it's weird how things change all the time.
Yeah, like, so a couple years ago, I think it was probably like 2017, maybe like 20, it had to have been like around 2017. And Matthew Lillard, I've also met him, and he was at a convention.
Love him.
He was awesome. But so he was just like chilling, like literally no line. Like he was amongst like, a couple other actors or whatever, like in like a merch room. And it was like a small convention, and he was like talking to workers. Like there was literally no one going up to his table or anything. And I didn't end up meeting him at that time. I was like distracted with like other stuff, but I was just like, oh, I'll like get him like another time, whatever. And then when I actually did meet him, I ended up waiting in line like 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he went from like literally having no line at all, like no interaction really with like fans and stuff, to people literally waiting so many hours. Like literally, when I went to meet him, the line was wrapped around the building.
Holy shit. He deserves it though. That guy needs to be in more work. Like more movies.
He was great.
Matthew Lillard. Yeah. Scream is my all-time favorite movie. No, like number one, no questions asked. It's Scream all day, every day. I love that movie so much. Yeah. Is there a bucket list person? Like who's on your list that you absolutely want to meet?
Jennifer Tilly.
Okay.
And I would love to meet Woody Harrelson as well. And
I heard Danielle Harris is super cool to meet.
I've met her. I have her autograph. She was cool.
Yeah.
And Linda Blair.
Oh yeah, why not Linda Blair? Yeah, Elvira's on my list. I definitely want to meet Elvira one time.
I also met her. I have her autograph.
What a sweet soul. So ahead of her time. Yeah, another one people are saying in the chat, of course, Terrifier 3. I'll be doing Terrifier 2 with my Freddie Courtney again, so we'll be doing a part 2 of that. If you want to check out our first episode of Terrifier, I'm going to be honest, it's not the greatest because I'm still trying to find myself, and once again, connection issues are always sometimes tricky, but love Terrifier, a lot of fun. But that's pretty much all I got. Thank you so much for doing this. I definitely love looking at your social media when you go to cons. I'm super jealous that you go to them and get to meet these cool people, and your outfits that you're always put together. It's always dope. Great reconvening again and talking horror. I miss seeing you at shows. We don't go to a lot of the same shows anymore, but we have to change that soon. But thank you so much. Is there any movies coming up that maybe you want to take your stake in now that you want to take for a future episode?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
I definitely have to think, and like, we'll coordinate, like see if you have people lined up for it or anything. If not, like we'll definitely figure something out, because I am totally down all day, every day to talk about horror movies. I love it so much. And I have a ton of merch. A lot of like, I have animatronics. I'm like looking at like a friggin' almost 7 foot tall clown from fucking Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like I got so much nonsense that I could just go on and on about. But yeah, this was an absolute blast, and I had a great time talking about this movie. I am.
Did you see the Killer Clowns from Outer Space video games coming out soon?
Yes,
I'm
that's
so
exciting.
stoked for that. Yeah. But thank you guys so much. If you guys want to check out previous episodes, please go ahead and do that. Hit that subscribe button. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, I do interviews as well as movie reviews. So you can come on if you want to plug your business or anything you got going on. The door is always open to have people come and talk about some of the stuff they're into. I love meeting new people and having a good time talking about things we're all passionate about. Thank you all for tuning in this entire time. It means the world. Merchandise and stuff is all available. Let's talk some wrestling sometime. Listen, wrestling, pro wrestling, horror, I'm down for all of it. Please give me it all. But we will see you guys in the very near future. I don't have anything pretty much announced. This is my last episode for the month. I am still booking for May. It is getting kind of full. June is still completely wide open. So if you want to get on for a future episode, please hit me up and we'll see you guys on the next one. Also, go follow Kim on Instagram. It's a good follow. A lot of fun stuff over there. She's a fantastic. She got in cosplay for today's episode. I don't know the dance to get out of here, but here's some music by the Converse Kid. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.